So for all the fabby new folk that have joined us over the kind of wintry period, here is how the monthly garden tour videos work. Apart from, I get a bit like an overexcited puppy showing off how great the garden looks, we have a method that we've been doing for the past couple of years, and it is this. Although our garden is just an average sized back garden and front garden or backyard, we've split it into areas that we use for different things, and we've kind of given them their own names. Basically, it comes from this. Here in the UK, there's a TV show called Gardener's World, and the presenter, Monty Don, has a huge set of gardens on loads of land. So he's got actual proper gardens with names like the writing garden and the jewel garden and the formal garden and etc, etc, etc. Clearly, we don't have that. It's areas of our garden, but it's a bit of fun. So we will take you around in all the different areas and show you things, and I will tell you what area we're in, and it'll appear on the map so that you can kind of visually get an idea of where we're going around. And if you're lucky, I might get Kate to do one of her fabby kind of through the attic window shots to let you see everything in one go. We'll see what mood she's in. Right, where will we start then? We're going to start in the chaluterie. So here is what you need to know about the chaluterie. This little corner is the chaluterie. It was named by one of you guys last year and it has stuck. It used to be Strawberry Corner because this planter used to be full of strawberries. Now, Kate and I built this kind of vertical wall planter thing. It's just some old pallets that we've put bottoms on, bolted to the fence, filled with soil and planted in. But we decided it wasn't as good as having our strawberries in the bed, so we've moved them. But the thing is, I love this corner. It's my perfect little spot to sit here with a coffee and a book and just have some chill time, especially in the morning when no one else is awake. Somewhere there's an aeroplane. So we wanted to make it nice again without the strawberries. So now we have filled this planter with an array of plants. So what I'm going to do is move this chair and bring you in and let you see everything, because nobody has seen this yet. This is the first time we've shown it. You have, however, all seen this bowl of amazing bulbs. I think this is its third year, I think. But we've got pink impression tulips and pink wonder daffodils, and then obviously it's interplanted with viola and pansies so that when there's no tulips and daffodils there is still some colour in there. But let's have a look at the wall. Doesn't it just look fabby? And the thing is, it's only going to get better. Just all of this stuff is relatively new, so it's going to bed in and get even better. And we've got a mix. We've got like little alpines and flowers. We've got ivies. It's just stunning. I'm loving it. I can't wait until it just all comes into its own. But I've kind of fallen in love with this corner again. Now, we'll go left. You saw a minute ago I started in somewhere called the beer garden. This is my seat. So this is quite possibly the most famous part of the garden because it's what we generally see from the house, which means when I'm doing kind of the odd Instagram snap or whatever, it's generally this bit. So we took you guys through making this bed in a video. It's a bit like our vegetable raised beds. It's just some railway sleepers. And we put this together so that we could build up for planting, because the bed we had in there before was quite low, didn't have a lot of soil in it. It's where I've really had fun. So at the minute, the thing you notice the most is these tulips. But it's not the only tulips in there. They all come up at different times, so there's going to be some quite stunning white tulips coming up soon, so watch out for that next month. But we've also got a couple of osteopernums, which are just about to flower. In fact, this one has got this one flower at the moment. These, I love these. This is my Obretia, and they just spread and look amazing. But there's all sorts in here. We've got alliums about to come up as well. And you can see in the middle here, we've got mims. Now, you guys know my love of mimulus. So that is this season's that are just growing, they haven't flowered yet. It just shows you how quickly they take. So there's some very, very deliberate planting in this bed. We've planted shorter, colourful items at the front, and then as we've gone backwards, we've built on the height of things so that we've got that whole view from the other side of the garden and the house when we're looking out the window. Hence why we've got different heights. We've got 2 lots of the tulips, so it gives symmetry with the 2 cherry trees. It creates that kind of frame. And then across the fence, we've got the pop of the white clematis. There are some foxgloves in here, so it'll be awesome when they flower. They'll be big, tall, white spikes. It'll be brilliant. So there's still more to come in this bed, but it is the area that gets me the most excited. Now, next, I'm going to take you to something I call the walled garden or the fence bed. So this huge bed right up the side of the garden is the walled garden or the fence bed. Again, it is very, very much designed to be a visual spectacle. Now, there have been a lot of changes. Just a few years ago, this was just a very, very narrow bed. And this path wasn't here because we had actual proper paving all the way up here. But we decided we wanted to bring this bed forward so we could do more planting. And we had those leftover paving slabs. And we knew I needed a path to get to the greenhouse because I was just cutting across the lawn all the time and I was leaving a big trail on the lawn where I had worn it out. So we put this path in. But what we've done again is exactly the same idea. So we've got the 2 big visual pieces this time of year are the Schemia. So Schemia japonica. At this time of year, they've got these flowers all over them. Later in the year, those turn to berries. But right at the moment, the smell off of these is incredible. It is amazing. And they are just a buzz with bees. And they also look pretty stunning. Now, we will have some more height later in the year. We've got lots of Lucifer crocosmia, so the big tall ones with the red flowers. I've got heaps of those. I'm a big fan. So we've got a big bunch here. We've got some at the very end, and we've got a few here as well. So they will give us lots of dramatic height and structure with their big, sharp green blades. Those look fantastic. We've got an astrantia that is just coming up at the far end. It'll be a couple of months yet before that's properly at its height, and the flowers on that are stunning. But until then, we've got a lot of different heights and colours and textures from the front of the bed going up to the mid-ground. And it does all year for us. We use this for violas, pansies, primrose, primula, all that kind of thing. And that gives us colour through autumn and winter. Those are amazing bedding plants. We've also got cyclamen, which again, at the minute, give us the most amazing little flashes of green leaves with variegation on them. But in the winter, those are all pink flowers and white flowers and burgundy flowers and look fantastic. We've got bulbs in here as well. So back here, you can see there are still some crocus here. So we've got orange monarch crocus, but there are various other kind of purples and things dotted through, some of which have passed now. We've also got alliums that will probably be up next month. And various things like hyacinths and iris and what have you. So it's a real mix as you go through. We've got foxgloves as well, quite a lot in this bed, including this little patch here. This little patch of tiny little foxgloves is the leftovers from the ones I was potting on in the greenhouse. And I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to plant them all straight from the tray as a clump, and we'll just see if they survive. I didn't expect them to. They hadn't even been hardened off, but they seemed to be doing okay. So fingers crossed, folks. I'll let you know how those go. Just to the left of them, you can see that we've got much bigger foxgloves. Those were the ones I was bringing on and potting up and keeping going. Now, I absolutely would be remiss to not talk about the hanging baskets. We have 10 hanging baskets in the garden, and over the years the flowers that I've put in them have changed, so that it used to be every one of them was full of petunias, which is why I have such a thing for petunias. But we put all these violas and pansies and things in, and they have saw us right through winter, giving us little pops of colour, and they're still going, so we don't see any reason to move them. Particularly the ones over in the beer garden are looking fantastic. Don't worry though, the petunias are going on the ones at the back of the house that are currently empty. I'll show you the other hanging baskets as I take you across the garden, and we'll go to the vegetable garden. So this is the vegetable garden. It is 3 raised beds where I grow root veg, salads, courgettes, onions, spring onions, garlic, the works. Behind us on the fence is also the blackberries that are trained on the fence as a trellis system. There's also a pot with some rhubarb, more foxgloves because we had nowhere to put them. That's it for here, but we have a new addition to our fruit growing that I'll tell you about in a little bit. But come closer and I'll take you through what's in the veg beds for just now, because as you can see, they're pretty much full. So all of my veg beds have these nets over the top now. They're on big heavy wooden frames that are hinged, and it just makes it easy for me to get in and out like this. I did have the old traditional systems where you would peg it or hold the net down with bricks and all of that, but this is just much easier, especially given I'm often out here on my own with a camera and stuff as well. But this bed at the moment, in fact, let's come in even closer. I'm under no illusions. This is a gratuitous showing off shot. In this bed, I have got some green wave and some dragon's tongue mustard. This is the stuff I've been bringing on in the greenhouse over winter. And because my beds have these nets, they're raised beds, they're mulched, and they're in a very, very sheltered little spot of the garden, I'm actually able to get stuff out just now, even though we still get frosts. So don't copy me, you need to know your garden. But in here I've got this mustard, I've also got the lamb's lettuce or corn salad. I've got a row here and I've got a row at the front. I've got these little winter Valian lettuces, and I've got more of them in a bed at the bottom. I've got some various spring onions, I've got 3 rows. I've got a row of purple haze carrots, as you can see are doing fantastic. A row of beetroot. This row of beetroot was all sown beetroot and it's tiny. So one of the things I'm doing this year that's different from other years is I'm trying succession sowing and planting, which means I'm trying not to grow too much all at once. The idea of this is I will eat this stuff, but there will be other plants coming along behind it to replace it. So there won't be periods where I'm waiting on a harvest, but there also shouldn't be massive gluts either. That's the idea. So I've got this row of carrots that are looking fantastic. I've got a row of carrots here that aren't up yet. I've got this row of beetroots that are looking really quite good. And then I've got these much smaller beetroots behind. There won't be anything else going in this bed yet. As I eat and use up all of this produce, more will come in behind it. Now, at the minute, none of this is following my layouts that I had decided on the beds because things worked so much better than expected. So I'm having to kind of readjust and replan as I go. But it's all part of the learning for this year. Now, the next bed is only alliums. That is to say, it's garlic, onions and spring onions. It's not looking as good as this, and I'll explain in a second. So, at the front here, which is looking really yellow and horrible, is my garlic. So all the way to here is garlic. Unfortunately, the one thing that we have here is rain. A lot of rain. It is a rare day when our garden dries out. This garlic is all looking really poorly because it is just too wet in this bed. I took all the mulch off because I was worried it was holding the moisture in, but it's really not helped because we got so much rain for the week and a half after I did that. So I'm not sure if this will survive or not. We're just going to have to wait and see. The irony being the spring onions in between the garlic and the actual onions are all looking absolutely stunning. Now this third bed opens the other way and it balances on that pot. At the minute, this bed is absolutely full of lettuces, corn salad, lamb's lettuce, green wave mustard, dragon's mustard, dragon tongue mustard. Because already I failed my succession planting and I had too many of these. So that's what this bed is. But it's okay. This bed is designated to be where the courgettes will grow and they will not be coming out into my garden until June. So this will be used up by then. And for the eagle-eyed amongst you, you'll notice this bed doesn't have the insect netting. Instead, it's got this much looser net on it. It's because we don't have to worry about things like leaf miners for the onion bed or carrot fly for the bed at the end. This one's going to have courgettes with flowers that need to be pollinated, so we want to let most of the insects in. It does stop things like cabbage whites, so mostly things are safe from kind of caterpillar types, and also, importantly, it's safe from the local cats who come and dig in the beds. It's great for that. Now, I said there's blackberries on this fence. So I'll just climb over the pot of radishes. There's nothing to show there yet, but I have two blackberry plants. These are thornless blackberries, Loch Tay and Loch Ness, and they are trained along these wires on the fence. There's not a lot to see at the moment, and this is only our second year growing these. So these are the canes that grew last year that we tied in, and the canes from the year before have been cut away. Other than that, we don't know what to expect. We don't know what we're doing. We're learning as we go, but we're bringing you guys along for the journey. We got heaps of blackberries last year, big, huge, super sweet ones. We're hoping we're going to get even more this year. But there is some tying in that's going to have to be done. So that's going to be a job for later on. Now this area here is called the statutory. It's a Scottish expression. It's just basically like the patio, the place in the garden where you sit out and kind of enjoy the garden. There's nothing exciting here at the minute. It's later in the year it really comes into its own over here. We've got the hellebore at the moment, which is looking fantastic, but it is a white to kind of lime coloured hellebore, so it's, you know, it's not a crazy mad colours. This is our elder. This little guy used to be in a pot over there and he never did well at all. He was always tiny, never flowered. We moved him into these planters here and since then he is doing fantastic. So yeah, we've already pruned him for this year and took about 3 foot off his height. So hopefully he won't grow that tall again. The very last part I'm going to show you in the back, the very last part of the back garden I'm going to show you, we call Colourful Corner for obvious reasons. It is basically a collection of planters and pots here with all sorts of flowers, bulbs, shrubs, etc. in here, just creating a little blast of colour. So right at the front I've got my gazania, which I absolutely love. There's not really anything there yet, but soon. And we've also got lots of tulips, and we've also had lots of tulips that have passed. They'd already flowered and they have gone. We've got another elder here. This one's a black elder. So it's a change from that one's a golden elder, this is a black elder. And we've got lots of muscari and what have you in here as well. It's just our little blast of colour in the corner. The last thing I'm going to do is the greenhouse, but before we do that, I'm going to take you out to the front and I'll show you the front garden. There's a few things need to happen out there that I'm going to tell you about. So the front garden is much smaller. We've got a rockery, a shrubbery, plant in the middle, some beds at the front of the house, but let's have a look at the bulbs on the left here. So this section's called the rockery for obvious reasons, but we've got all these pots and planters at the side here with all our spring bulbs, mostly because we had all of these spring bulbs and didn't know what to do with them, so they just went in planters till we tested things. That's 2 years now and we love it, so we're now considering we may do something with them. The rockery is just full of all sorts here. It's all alpines or heathers. This is an offshoot of this guy and it just grew and we missed it, so he lives here now. But yeah, this is one of the best things. April is when this rockery looks its best. It can look a little bit bland later on in the year because it's an awful lot of greens and browns for the alpines. But April is generally when they all flower and it just is awesome. When you come round the corner, it's the first thing you see. But what we've got on the opposite side of the garden is the shrubbery, which is basically the same idea, but it's shrubs and the acer tree instead of a rockery. We built them both on the same day. For those of you who don't know, when we moved in here, there were no gardens. It was all this kind of brickwork, and we lifted all of this and we laid the lawn and put all of the gardens in. So we did these both on the same day. There's no way I can bring you out into the front garden and not show you Kate's camellia. There's a bit of a running joke with this camellia. Basically, it always flowers and looks stunning, and about 3 days later it snows because frost and snow and severe chill winds burn all these flowers and they all fall off. But this year it seems to be holding on. And of course beside it, one of our osteopernums. Today's the first day I've seen this flower, so that's dead exciting, mid-April, and that's the flowers coming out. Like a lot of the plants we've got, they're sun worshippers, so basically the flowers open for the sun, and this garden is south facing, the sun is right there just now. So they open and then they'll close later on in the evening when the sun kind of goes down a bit. But it just looks awesome. Another camellia at that side, it's a red one. It's not as glorious as this one though. Yeah. So the last thing to show you in the front garden's not exciting at all, and I'm going to need Kate's help for that. It's a bit of a tale of two halves here. Number one, look at this. All the new growth in this comes in this beautiful flaming red, and that's exactly what's happening just now. But probably next month it's going to be this tree I'm going to be telling you about. This is Kate's Japanese maple. It's a palmata acer, which means the leaves are hand-shaped, but they are glorious and they catch the light from the sun. It just looks stunning. So this is the front garden, which you guys don't see from this angle often enough because it's not particularly easy to do. Kate's currently hanging out of the attic window with a selfie stick. But as you can see, look at the shape of the lawn. Don't look at the patchiness, we'll talk about that in a sec. But if you look at the shape of the lawn, it's not a square, it's not all even. There are lots of lines and corners. Kate was out this week cutting all of that by hand. It took her hours, but it looks awesome. But there's another big thing I'm going to talk to you about with the lawn then, and it's this. You will have seen how patchy the lawn is at the moment from the overhead shot. This is my job for this week. One of the things that happened this week when we were doing all the edging was we discovered grubs in the lawn, and it turns out that we have leatherjacks, which are the grubs from daddy longlegs, or cranefly I think is the other name for them, and they basically live under the soil and they eat the roots, and it causes these horrible patches. So I'm going to be treating it this week with some nematodes. I won't talk about it too much now, but of course I'll show you guys what I'm doing and we'll keep checking back and seeing if it works. We've always had issues with this lawn, so it may not be quite that simple, but we'll see. So as is traditional, we end in the greenhouse, and as is traditional with a wasp, this always seems to happen. So the big difference this year is that the greenhouse is much fuller than it's been in other years. Not because of the tomatoes and the peppers. By this point in the year, we always have tomatoes and pepper. No, that's not true. The last 2 years, we would always have this size of tomatoes and peppers going because we've been starting them early indoors with lights, or in this case this year, in here with a heated propagator and lights. However, what we've also got is an entire bed at the back here full of all the seedlings I'm bringing on, and right along the greenhouse shelves, all the other seedlings. So we've got a lot coming on in here, and again it's that succession sowing thing I'm trying. These are all replacements for other plants. For instance, these pea shoots are replacing the last 2 trays of pea shoots because we've eaten them all. So this is the next lot that are already coming on. You guys have already seen the overwintered pepper. So this is one of the peppers from last year. It's the only one of the 4 that I managed to keep going over winter here. It's got a little flower on it. Seems to be doing okay. We'll just keep an eye and see how it goes. Feels a little bit light, so I'll need to give it a water. But yeah, it is nowhere near as big as the peppers that I've brought on from seed. But these guys have been getting babied, whereas this has been dormant for a long time. So I'll give him a little bit. He's not quite ready to be potted on yet, but he will need to go into a bigger pot. We've also got all the dahlias that I sowed. So this is a dwarf dahlia. Gorgeous little multi-headed, beautiful little colourful things. Love these. I've got a special thing about dahlias. Dahlias were the very, very first flowers I ever grew from seed when I was learning about gardening. So they have a special place in my heart, basically. Now, here's a thing to note. You'll see I'm checking the leaves. I have been finding aphids recently, especially on the peppers. So it is that time of year. So just keep an eye out for the aphids in your greenhouse, and could possibly be outdoors in some gardens. Keep an eye out. Now, I don't know if you guys can see this very well given it's so sunny, but I've got 2 tomato plants. I've got my Brad's Atomic, which has got 2 trusses on it at the moment. And I've got my Marmande, my big beefsteak. It's got 2 trusses on it. 1 truss already has fruit forming on it. Again, I started these plants very early, and they've been in heated propagators with lights, and then they're now in my greenhouse, and I have a heater which can come on overnight when the temperatures drop. So I'm keeping this warm. It is not a normal greenhouse at the moment at all. Just in case you're worried, your tomatoes and peppers are not so far behind mine at all. It's actually that mine are way ahead of you in the growing schedule, so don't worry. So if I move you onto this side, I'll show you the peppers because there's something a bit weird going on there. King of the North peppers. So we've got 2 that we topped, and we did this in the video. So that is this one and this one, and we've got them labelled so we know. And this one and this one have not been topped, so you can see the difference in size between these 2. But also this one has got lots of buds on it. This one doesn't yet. Again, the same here. This one was not topped and it has lots of buds. This one was topped and doesn't. But the ones that were topped do have a lot more side growth happening. So all of that does seem to be correct. However, I said there was something weird going on, and it is this. I came out to find all of the plants had leaves that were turning over upside down. I don't know how much of this you can see, which is very weird. I googled it and looked it up online, and the most common reason seemed to be too much sunlight too quickly. And I dismissed it because I thought, well, this is about as bright as it has gotten in weeks here. It's actually been really, really cloudy and really rainy, and it's been quite cold for the last few weeks. Plus, these plants have been out here their entire life. They did have artificial lights until last month, or till the middle of last month, and then we switched them off because it was bright enough to give them enough hours daylight. So I completely dismissed it. But I emailed Steve over at Greenside Up this morning, because Steve and I chat a lot and I totally trust Steve and he helps me a lot with the garden. And he said, yeah, definitely he thinks it's to do with sunlight. So he's recommending that the plants that look like they're curling over like that, although they're not curling, they're turning over, put them on the floor so it's a bit more shaded. Although I've brought them back up here for the sake of the video to show it to you guys. But yes, I will keep you up to date on that one. It is very weird. Steve called them all little weirdos, and I think he's kind of got a point. But yeah, so that's the greenhouse for just now. I totally forgot. The aubergines, we've got 2 aubergines here. It's the very first year that I'm growing aubergines. I'm quite excited. I tried these way back 10 years ago when I was a newbie gardener. Couldn't even get the things to get past the seedling point. So I'm quite excited that I've got 2 big plants going. And obviously, as usual, I've got my basil, my tarragon, that kind of thing. Quick one before we go. The new things I spoke about. We've got 2 apple trees. For those of you who may remember, Kate was saying that she'd love to do some more fruit. So we've got these 2 apple trees. They are cordon apple trees and they're Falstaff. So we are going to grow them very much as a cordon. Still dormant, we'll see how we go. Again, never grown apple trees before, but we're quite excited. But that's it then. That has been me completely being obnoxious and showing off in April. I hope that was fun.